person that inspired me in LA.
Aww.
And you're a screenwriter, a freelancer, and you volunteer at this artist space called Epiphany
Space, yeah.
And so I wanted us to interview you to talk about that and how you were led to Epiphany Space. And you mentioned in a conversation like maybe 2 weeks ago when we were hiking just how it's influenced your career actually.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to touch on that later. But you're friends with Melissa, who started this awesome place for us to come and like interview and for artists to get off the ground. And you're a mom and you're committed to your church. And I also found out last week you work a full-time, part-time job. In addition to like creating and running this artist space. And that's incredible to me that you find time to do all these things. So I guess we'll just start with you, Melissa.
Sure.
I wanted to just kind of talk about how and when you first felt this calling to help artists.
I know what it's like to move to a city that you don't know anybody in or you know very few people. Many years ago, I think it was 2000, I moved to New York City. And that transition was difficult. It was a difficult season in my life, and it was hard to get connected with other people who understood me and the situations I was walking through. And actually took about 4 years to get connected, like really connected with a church. And then from there in with the community. So that transition I understand firsthand. The whole artist side, my background is culinary arts. I grew up in a family of musicians and creatives, and I was homeschooled, and my parents helped foster all sorts of creativity. We did everything from pottery to music to drawing, which I'm horrible at. And my mom was telling me, my mom was telling me at 9, she asked, what I really enjoyed, and I told her cooking. And so then we began to explore food, and she would take me to all the weird restaurants in our city. So I ended up studying under a couple of French chefs, and that was how I got into the culinary world. So in New York, many moons after I moved there, I got married to a screenwriter. And at the end of 2008, we moved to Los Angeles. We made the schlep Christmas week of 2008 cross country and showed up just in time for the writer's strike out here.
Yes!
It was wonderful. Neither one of us could get a job. I began volunteering with Act One, and we got connected with Ecclesia, the church that we're a part of. And that was when, again, we're in a new city, but this was different because we had a lot of friends from New York who had already moved to LA, so we already had community and the Act One community that my husband was a part of. And I got to know different ministries out here, and there are a lot of programs to help artists with their craft, but what I saw is there wasn't a lot of day-to-day community opportunities. And you could go to church on Sunday. There were other things that you could be involved in, but the journey, there wasn't a lot of support for. And freelancers out here and artists out here, it's a very isolating, it's a community thing, but the lifestyle is very isolating.
It is,
And that's where the idea and the dream of Epiphany started. We have practical workspace for artists to use. So a community workspace, you can bring your laptop or your materials and be in community with one another. Think of it like a coffee shop or a library, but the difference is in those places you're around people, but you're not developing relationships. And at Epiphany, you come here to be in community. So we have the co-working. We do some classes. We have a write-a-thon every couple of months, which is time for writers to get together and just really power through and work on their own projects and feed off of each other's energy. We've got an artist way study happening right now, but then our facility is also used for auditions and for film shoots like today. And
this space.
Here we are. We've had clown troops come and practice and improv groups and pretty much any way that you can use facility. And facility is such a premium out in LA.
Absolutely.
That we want to be able to use the space as much as possible. And then we have some nonprofits that come and use the space also. So we're looking at how can we maximize the resources that we've been given. So we're pretty open. If you've got an idea of the way that we can support you in your endeavor, then we're open to that. The other thing that we do is we offer encouragement, both relational encouragement as well as spiritual encouragement. And the journey out here is pretty difficult, and there are many times when you're in between gigs and you've done everything that you can, or you have a bad day at an audition where who you are is really challenged. And so to be able to have somebody who cares, who can have time to sit down and listen to you and listen to your story and have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, that's important. And it not be someone who's competing with you in the industry.
That's a good point,
And with that, there are two other things that we do. One, healing prayer, which is a little different than counseling. Counseling, you have those aha moments of why you're screwed up and your life is the way that it is. Healing prayer brings Jesus into that moment so that he can actually bring his healing to that, and there's freedom for you as a person to become whole and live the rest of your life without the weightiness of those traumatic events in your life. And then the other thing that we do is artists are incredibly creative and spiritually aware. And one of the things that we do is we have listening groups, which is a group of believers coming together, and we practice just very simply hearing the Lord's voice and hearing the Lord's voice for others and helping to discern his voice for our own lives, and because God speaks to us all. We're his sheep, and his sheep hear his voice. Our heart is to come alongside of artists and help them holistically with their journey. And the artists that are in our community are in very different places. Some are just starting out, some are seasoned veterans. And healing and wholeness is a part of it. Being in community that loves you, that can remind you who you are and call out who you are, is a part of it.
And also, just to point out, Epiphany Space is, we're here for artists of all types, so it's like we are believers, like we believe in Jesus, we follow him, but we also are very open to anybody, what anyone believes. Just come in and be here and work with us, and if you want to try the healing prayer, go for it. If you're just like, no thank you, then that's fine. But it's not like we're just for Christians. And we have a number, actually, of people that are not at all interested in God or Jesus, and that's totally cool. We love them, and we love having them here. So
pray and host his presence. But what she said, you don't have to believe what we believe. We want you to be able to be here and enjoy working and be loved on and be in community. And we gather around the art and the craft and encouraging one another in the journey.
So Epiphany is 8 years old?
The dream of Epiphany began in 2009.
Okay.
We incorporated in 2010, and we got our first location in Hollywood in 2013.
So I guess I'm curious. So you had this vision, right? And you've had someone tell you that it's an asset that you're not and screenwriter, and you're not a part of the Hollywood hustle and bustle. So what was the moment or the thing that shifted you from it being a vision to actually like, I'm gonna do this?
The challenge with the huge thing that I see is it's the same that many others have seen, which is a large artist center in Hollywood to help cultivate artists for the industry. So I wrestled with seeing the same thing, and am I another one of those that are seeing it, that's going to try and do it, that it's going to fail? And there have been people who've tried to do that, and for different reasons it didn't go forward. So I really wrestled with that, and then I began to go, okay, what piece do I carry? Like what component is unique to me about that? That I carry. And also in that journey, I will tell you, we lived in Burbank at the time, and I was driving down Olive, and I had a vision while I was driving, and it was there were 3 boxes that had 3 houses in them, and I knew that each house represented my life, and there was a low risk, low reward, but perfectly good life. God would be absolutely happy and satisfied with that if that's what I chose. The middle one was medium risk, medium reward, perfectly good life. God would be happy if I chose that. And then there was high risk, high reward, which he'd be happy, perfectly
Can you
good
guess
life.
which one she chose?
And he asked me in that moment which one I wanted. And I had to decide in that moment, driving past Warner Brothers, what life I wanted. And I knew I wouldn't be satisfied with the first two. And so I told him the third. And I will tell you, there have been moments where things have been really hard. And it's been really scary. And I've been mad. And God will bring me back to that moment and say, you chose. And he's right, I did. When we launched the campaign for Epiphany for a physical location, I was 7 months pregnant. And that was not the timing that I thought all this was going to happen. We joke and say that I have twins because my daughter was born 3 days before we got the keys to our Hollywood location. And so there's been a whole journey of surrender in the midst of this journey of giving birth. So my analogy of Epiphany has a lot to do with birth and like allowing it to cultivate and the promises of God being there but not really being able to see them, and those moments of being really uncomfortable, and sometimes the birthing is really hard and painful. But there's a lot of joy that comes in seeing these dreams come into fulfillment, but it takes a whole lot of risk.
What would you say to women who have an idea germinating inside them that they believe is their passion? Like, how would you encourage them to move from this vision to reality?
Pray. That's one. Also seek advice from people who have gone before you. You may not use the advice or apply the advice, but find out what's out there. Find out the stories of the people who've gone before, because you'll learn a lot. You'll learn what not to do, and you'll also learn your own perspectives on things and it'll shape you and it'll shape your vision. I would also encourage you to begin to put on paper what your dream is.